tonight. Like I said, I probably want to get a pen and paper out for a couple, and you're going to have the world debut of my wife, Heidi Welch, on her first ever webinar tonight because she's got some things she wants to talk about, so it's going to be kind of fun. And you'll see the real brains behind this operation as far as my distributorship's concerned. So the cat will be out of the bag now after tonight. And so Tommy, are you on the line yet?
Here. I'm excited to hear from
I am on the line, yes.
All right, awesome. Well, let's get this show on the road. I'll mute out the call here. All right, so it should be Tommy and Steve.
Yep. Tommy, get on
here.
Eric.
All right, Heidi, you on?
I'm on.
All right, awesome. Well, welcome everyone to the call. We're going to kind of get into a little bit of our trip, and kind of the layout of what we're going to talk about tonight is just kind of give you a glimpse into what it was like to be with the founders and go to Italy on the 200K trip, and kind of share with you a little bit about that so you can kind of look into the future of your own distributorship and see what amazing things this company has in store for you. And then, more importantly, in a lot of ways, we're going to talk about some of the unique situations that are right before us regarding Zango, the future phase 2, as I've been calling it, of the Zango story. We learned some things on the trip, and we probably have some tidbits and insights that you may not have heard before, and certainly some ideas about the position of Zango in both in the industry standpoint and just business timing. There's some fantastic things about to happen, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that tonight and hopefully give you some ability to transfer and discuss those ideas and how to have those ideas inside of you so your excitement and belief shows through when you're talking to people regarding what's coming in the next wave of the Zango experience. So we went to about a week and a half ago now, I guess it is. We went to one of the most amazing cities on earth, and if you've never been there, it's hard to relate, but if you've been there, you know exactly what we're talking about. This is hold on, I'm waiting for the slides here. There's about 30 of us total, about half were from corporate and half were distributors, and we went to the beautiful and amazing city of Venice, and what's amazing about the place, right away when we went there the first day we had a tour, is that you're literally in a city that hasn't changed with the exception of motorized boats instead of just human-powered boats in over 400 years. So it's a very distinct and unique place to go, and it's a very neat place that the founders will continue to take 200K trips there in the future. They discussed that when we were on the trip just because it's such a magical place. But so these are a few of the pictures that those of us that were on the trip took ourselves as we were there. So you'll see some kind of cameo shots of some different things, and it's kind of fun. But I'll get into the next picture, and I'll let hold on a second. Technology. We're going to, some of those pictures, it was just pretty amazing to sit and hang out with the founders in a very relaxed atmosphere. I've never had the opportunity just to have hours and hours of just kind of hanging out time. And Joe and Gordon and Aaron were all on the trip, as well as Dr. Templeman and all their wives. And it was just a really neat get to know the other side of them when they weren't in the middle of a convention or something. It was a very neat experience for sure for my wife and I. But this is some pictures from Steve and Cindy. So Steve is 200K from down in the much warmer region of the country, Florida. And I'll let you guys, you kind of, is Cindy on the call also? Steve,
oh, yeah.
Or just you?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I wouldn't let her get off the call.
Well, why don't you guys just kind of...
just as important to the business as Heidi is to you.
Absolutely. We know better, right?
That's right. I was told to say that.
Yeah.
She's holding a sign up just like they did when they picked us up, but they had her name on. She said, "Tell them how important I am." That's on a sign.
Well, the wives are important, or the husbands are important anytime you're in networking because you need to work as a team.
You more than double your power,
base.
right?
The guy up in the right-hand corner is her new husband.
I picked him up in Venice.
The guy in the lower right-hand corner is already taken, so she picked the guy that paints the thing. See, I got my duffel bag on my hand there. I'm leaving home.
You're packing your bags.
That's the only thing I got left in the deal.
No, but that man might be our first recruit in Italy, so we don't mess with him.
I'll tell you what, I tried to buy a painting from him, and then I forgot to go back, but he had some of the most amazing work. I know right where he was standing, I was just flabbergasted by his oil paintings. They're just awesome.
Oh, he teaches art in Venice.
I could tell.
So I had him sign the back of mine in case he's important one day. And he was a neat man, and his work was just beautiful. That was the first thing I bought for myself, was because, for one thing, when we looked out of our room at the hotel, I could see the bell tower, and it had all of the places we had been to.
She actually bought him, Eric, and I bought the painting.
I got you. So had you guys been to Italy before?
No, never. It's like it was like a Cinderella trip for her.
I felt like Cinderella. I mean, how else do you feel when they pick you up? They have someone waiting for you, to transport you. Then you take a taxi ride to the hotel, and you go to the hotel, and the hotel was beautiful, and Zango treats you like kings and queens. They are such a phenomenal company, and Italy was just amazing. I mean, and the nice thing about it, Zango made it possible that we got to stay 5 extra days and go to Rome. So
did you ask your boss off of work, or did he let you off easy?
Yeah, I took that boss with me.
So you guys, so when you guys are on the trip like this, I have my answer, but I found myself thinking about people on my team and how I just wanted so bad for them to be able to experience something like this, because I think, and as we go through this, I think some people will notice you do things on a trip like this that you'd never do on your own, even if you had unlimited resources to do it. You just wouldn't do the things that we did. And it's one thing to go to Italy, but the way Zango does it is a whole other category.
Yeah, they do. They just set up everything. That's what I said. The dinner the night, the gondola ride dinner and walking into the palace. That's when you really felt like Cinderella. I thought that should have been a dress-up party, and we should all dress like Cinderella. Mm-hmm. Because when they opened that and the room was filled with Murano chandeliers with candles lighting our dinner, it was breathtaking.
Well, let's kind of keep this conversational and talk about. I'll get through a couple more pictures, and that'll spur our memory to kind of have a fun little recap here. This is some pictures of Tommy and Lindsay Johnson, who also lives somewhere far warmer than me in the Phoenix area. Tommy, you on?
I am. You know what, Eric? I look at these pictures and I realize how non-photogenic I am, and how I definitely sponsored up here.
Well, yeah, your wife makes up for it, though, so don't worry. No one's looking at you anyway. She's prettier than you are.
Okay, good.
So what had you... Now, you guys actually went to Rome ahead of time, right?
Yeah, we went to Rome first. We spent a few days there, and then on to Venice.
And had you been there before?
No, actually, Eric, I don't, I'm not a huge traveler, actually. My wife wants to travel the world, and we will because she wants to, but to be quite frank with you, with what's going on in Zango and what we're going to talk about in a few more minutes, it was, I was ready to get home. My cell phone didn't work there. My only connection with my business and home was email, and everybody's not sitting in front of their emails all the time, their computer, and I couldn't text, so I was hoping everybody had BlackBerries, but they didn't, so they have the push technology and get the emails right, because I was so excited about the stuff we were learning while we were there. I was just chomping at the bits, but I have to admit that Zango definitely spares no expense, and like you, Eric, I was constantly thinking about how much people in my organization would love this experience and how they deserve it and how they're going to have it one day. And and Steve, I agree with what you said. This company makes this available for us. But make no mistake about it, it's the individuals that decide to get themselves there.
That's true, Tommy.
Yeah. Well, and when we were sitting there on the trip, I thought of, as I was eating breakfast one morning, I just reflected back to some of the points where you hit, frustration and people aggravate you and things don't go the way you expect, and you're struggling through different points in the growth curve of this business, just like anything in life. And then I sat and I looked out and I had a bite of the biggest, juiciest kiwi I ever saw in my life, and I looked out over the ocean and I thought, it was worth it. No problem,
Those kiwi were huge.
They were the biggest kiwi I ever saw in my life. That's the most exciting part of the trip, but it was certainly interesting.
Just one thing after another that this company does for you when you're on these vacations, and you just start thinking about ultimately what that would cost if you had to come out of pocket for all of the excursions and events and experiences. Sometimes I think maybe some of us, or me at least, take these things for granted. Then I come home and look at the pictures and reflect, and it's really amazing. And I talked about it being an individual who chooses to get themselves there. Well, and Steve, you've been with other network marketing companies. This is my first experience, but the doability factor, the opportunity to actually get on one of these trips is much greater than any company you've ever been with, I would imagine.
Without a doubt, when you really look at it, everybody's trying to accomplish the same things. A lot of people will put together the efforts, and other people won't. But you think about, you're looking at for 4 people to become a $200K to get a trip that probably costs $25,000-$30,000 or more. I'm probably lowballing it. I talked to a couple of the other ones on some previous trips, and they said it averaged about $40,000 a person. And Eric, you and Tommy and all of us that was on a trip, no, they didn't spare no expenses. I mean, a simple little gondola ride to the castle that night was like $130-some, just over, and then $130-some back. They pick you up in the limousine, candlelight dinners, opera singers. I would imagine we've probably spent $1,000 or more. But I've never, Tommy, like your comment, I've never been involved with other companies where 3 or 4 we've been involved with and went to the top with some of these companies, but was never treated like European trips, Thailand trips, expenses, take care of your rooms and the regionals and stuff. And you're absolutely right. You have to pay a price, like Eric said, but you pay a price whether you do it or you don't do it. And here you get paid for paying the price.
Yeah, and it seems like, and Eric, you probably have some insight on this better than me as well, you and Steve both, but these companies, typically, to be able to earn a trip like this, you almost have to be able to walk into a phone booth with a suit on and fly out with a cape.
Right.
And the average guy, for the lack of a better phrase, doesn't stand a chance. And it seems to me, and Eric, you and I were discussing this while we were in Venice, that I'm always looking for a common denominator. What do people have in common? Everybody has their system, so to speak. And if it were Marlene Belinget's, it's her in-home meetings and Sherman's work ethic and all these different great leaders. But really, what they all have in common is they just kind of made up their mind. And that, I think, and you guys would know more, that's unique to this industry. That opportunity is actually available to anybody who just makes up their mind, treats this like a real business.
Yeah, I've been for a while. I caught this phrase somewhere on some tape, and decisions are easy, but commitments are rare. Because you can decide to do it today, but decide not to do it tomorrow when you have a bad hair day. But commitment shines through all that, and ultimately something like this is just a reflection on a series of days where you decided to stay the course. Because something that's occurred to me on this trip and different things, the more I've gotten to hang around other people who've hit the upper levels in the company, is I call it there's no magic pixie dust. It was almost like discovering the wizard behind the curtain. Like, oh wait, so there's really not any big secrets here, is really what people always told me. And there's no one's got any secret things that they're doing they're not telling someone about, and everyone else is scratching their head and wondering. It really is just as simple as it looks, and that's probably what people have a trouble with, is just it's staying the course and consistency and doing the right things and being coachable and all the things that we always talk about, we always hear.
Well, Eric, you're right 100%. The fortunate thing, and I don't know if, like I said, I've been in 4 or 5 different networking companies over the last 20-some years. Tommy's fortunate enough to find this. He's worked the business, obviously, but I mean, you're fortunate if this is your first trip for anybody, because not only you have the product, the compensation, but I think the biggest letdown for most of the people that's been discouraged in this industry is the founders, so the people who started a company. So you've got all three of the formulas that you need to have a successful business if you're willing to put the initiative and the time and effort into it. So, there's going to be a lot of people miss out on this one because they just aren't willing, and the numbers don't change. So we're out there, searching for the people like you and Tommy and the rest of them out there that have already accomplished some of these things, and other ones that will come on in the next 10 years that are going to accomplish a lot more than probably people that's already in the business. But everything's already put in place right now. There's a good-looking couple on the stage now.
So I just wanted to we snapped like 500 pictures out of there, so we had no shortage of things to choose from. But it was
You're not telling us there's 495 more of you coming up next, are you?
So it was our first time ever been out of the country, with the exception of Mexico, and it was a whole other world for this little country bumpkin from Wisconsin, that's for sure. It was quite the experience. But I'll let my wife kind of chime in on some of this, and she can kind of tell from her side of the story what it was like to be there.
Well, hi, everyone. It's just amazing. There just aren't enough words to describe what we saw and experienced and smelled those couple days. I mean, we kept saying it's one thing to travel to Venice and you see the flowers and the gondoliers and the boats and the water. It's just amazing. But then it's another thing to travel to Venice for free, which most people, probably won't ever get there in their life just because it's an expensive place to go. But then it's just a whole new world, a whole new ballpark to travel to Venice for free with Zango. And our hotel was simply amazing. Eric, I think the cheapest room was like $1,300 a night U.S. And, I mean, just imagine getting dressed up for the ball. Like Cindy said, every little girl dreams of getting dressed up and like Cinderella and going to the ball. Well, we did. We went to this amazing Italian, this pink palazzo, which Italian palazzo is palace in Italian, and it was just truly magical. So we get picked up in these gondolas, and here in this picture you can see Joe and his wife Karen and Estella Salinas and her sister Liz. Liz actually qualified as a 200K and brought Estella along. But so we get picked up in these gondolas and just get taken through the canals. And actually we didn't have a gondolier that sang, which was kind of disappointing, but it was just magical nonetheless. So we get brought to the front of this pink palace that you can see in the top middle picture, and we arrive and we're greeted by this paparazzi of cameramen taking our pictures and waiters with champagne, and we step out onto this little dock and then enter this grand marble foyer that had this grand double staircase that took us up to the second floor. And so we proceeded upstairs, and then we're on this little parade through all these different rooms with the chandeliers were just amazing. They were all filled with candles and just Murano glass, tapestries that covered the walls, and beautiful paintings, crown molding. I mean, when you saw gold on things, you knew it was gold. It was just simply amazing. Just hard to, I think even believe that people would live like that. It's just so foreign for my thinking, but it's expanded my thinking to think that God is no respecter of persons. We can experience nights like this, and why does it have to be the rich and famous? Why not us? So dream big. We get taken up into this next room as we're going through the second floor, and there was a 3-person stringed orchestra playing, dinner music, and there were waiters with hors d'oeuvres standing there, and wine and drinks and all kinds of things. And we hadn't even gotten to our final destination yet, and we're all waiting to go in to have dinner, and the doors open, and it was just breathtaking. This whole room, and I'm talking a huge room, was filled with nothing. The lighting was nothing but candles. You can see it in the bottom left-hand picture. And we all ate at this full it was like a king's table for 30 plus people. It was just simply amazing. There were, I think, Eric, what were there, like 5 just these magnificent candelabras down the center of the table, the goblets, the silverware, the candles. There was a 3-person band from Florence. It was just truly storybook. It was every little girl's dream, and we experienced it. It was amazing.
It's one thing for me to be impressed with something, but the founders of our company have kind of globetrotted pretty heavy for the last few years, and even before that, a lot of them, and they couldn't hardly express. They were just totally blown away by what happened, because they didn't know what was coming either. This was all a surprise to them, and it was just neat to see their reaction. Even Dr. Templeman, who's been a world traveler for a long time, and I remember that picture in the middle with Tommy and Lindsay, Joe and his wife Karen, and they were. He was like, "Can you believe this?" And it was like we were on the set of a movie. It's like it wasn't even real to be there. And it was just one of those nights you're like, I just don't want this night to end. This is too magical. And then at the end of the night, you can see in the bottom left picture, there's the band there in the corner of the picture. And then there was kind of had a dance floor area there, and we're dancing. And Gordon Morton actually brought his mom along, and she hadn't been back to Italy where she grew up for over 50 years. And she actually told a story of how she this was one of the most grand of the palaces in its time, and she had remembered volunteering to help wait tables or something when she was a little girl, and she remembers going home from this particular palace back and just talking, someday I'd like to dance in a palace. And Gordon took her hand and brought her over there and danced with her in the palace that 50 plus years ago she had dreamt of as a little girl. So it was a really special evening from all those kinds of stories added in, and it was just kind of surreal. So, you guys, when you guys chime in on that night, that was kind of one of the highlights for me, for sure.
Well, I talked to Nicole Santiago, and she's the one that set up the trip, and I thanked her for what a beautiful job she did. Because they said they even had to get permits for the opera singers. Because they were performing outside, they had to get special city permits, and to think that they go to all that trouble for us, it was amazing.
Yeah, they did not only expense, but just thinking out of the box and doing things that we would never think to do them on our own. I'll back up here for a second. I wanted to show. A lot of you probably seen, if you looked at pictures of Venice or Italy, there's a place called St. Mark's Square that we spent a lot of time in. We were actually there. We created history while we were there. We were there on the last day that you could feed pigeons. So as much of a highlight as you could imagine that would be.
And they were all over you.
We were feeding. I guess the pigeon excrement was not doing so good against the marble beautiful building, so they were trying to get rid of them without having to kill them. So they just want them to go away and eat somewhere else. But pretty amazing. We took a tour of this place and didn't have to wait in the 500-person lines. We got to whisked right to the front of the line and got to go in with these tour guides that were just amazingly talented, and they had all kinds of insights and things about the history that you'd never know. It's kind of like the story behind the story of all these places. And I've never been in buildings before that, inside of St. Mark's Cathedral had, I think someone said it took like 300 years to decorate the inside of it. And it's all gold mosaic tiles everywhere, the whole ceiling of it. It's just the most amazing thing I've ever seen. Did you guys, we were on different tours, each one of us, so everyone had different tour guides. Anything you guys want to throw in about that?
The tour guide we had, Steve talked to him, and he's not only a tour guide, but he's a historian. So that's why they know so much about everything there. And
they were just fascinating. They took the time. It wasn't like they were rushing you through or anything. And, you could tell that he was as enthusiastic about what he was doing as we were about Zango. And that was nice because I know you don't remember everything, and I obviously don't remember all the things he told us, but it's breathtaking. You've never seen anything like that. I think the closest thing is probably touring Richard O'Brien's house, but other than that, that's the closest I've ever come to something this big.
Okay, well, I guess I'll have to see Richard O'Brien's house.
I'll send you pictures.
I know where it is. Everyone in Wisconsin and that lives in the area knows what it is because there's not too many people in the north woods of that part of the state of Wisconsin that build 23,000 square foot houses. So it's kind of a house that everyone around there knows about it.
Well, that's what this historian told us. I don't know if it's true or not, Eric, but he said, you know, if he ever loses his job there, he's already applied an application for Rich's place.
All right. Well, we took another tour on a bus one day up to a city called Verona, which is famous for a couple things. And we, on the bus on the way up, we had a kind of a fun time. Dr. Templeman was kind of talking, and Tommy, maybe you could share a little bit. Dr. T was kind of pretty excited about Glimpse, wouldn't you say?
Oh, a little bit.
He was really excited, and he shared with me in confidence that he thinks Glimpse is going to be bigger, and we could go on for a while at some of the reasons. But in a nutshell, Glimpse is going to be equally or more marketed for what's not in it. And there's a great book everybody should get. I've already got it and read half of it. It's called Not Just a Pretty Face. Not Just a Pretty Face. And you can get it on Amazon for about $11. But it will teach you about the skincare industry and what's in these skincare lines that have negative long-term effects on our body. So Glimpse is going to be more marketed for really its nutritional value, and that will be the intent, while beauty will just be a byproduct. And I'm quite excited about it, and I could go on for about an hour why.
So just to, that's Dr. Templeman actually squeezing a picture or a statue of Juliet from the famous balcony there. Where art thou? Balcony of as the story goes. But this Colosseum is interesting. It's actually older than the Roman Colosseum, not quite as big, but they still use it. You can see this setting up for operas there for the summertime. And so we spent the day up there and then went back home. And then our final evening, we were treated to a very big surprise. Our hotel had probably the only balcony that you could eat right at the water's edge in the entire city that I noticed. I didn't see another one. And we all were out there, and we had just a beautiful dinner. And then very surprising to all of us, in the bottom left, I can't remember their names. They have a picture with them, but they're actually the top-rated opera singers in all of Venice, and they came and sang an entire opera right at our table side during dinner. And as Cindy mentioned, they had to get special permits to do it because you can imagine between the water and the stone buildings, I'm sure a half mile away through the city, you could probably hear these guys singing. It was just, I thought my glass was going to break in my hand. It was just amazing.
Are you going to tell a story about your wine glass? Or your water?
Well, I wasn't going to, but now I have to.
We had to bring that up.
That's why you wanted to get rid of the pigeons too, right?
Yeah, right. So you can see in the bottom
I was going to fill that full of Zango for you.
Well, Stella and Liz, you can see that beautiful glassware that was there, and I was admiring the glassware, and I happened to tip it up and look in it, and it was still empty, and there was a big present that a pigeon had left in the bottom of my glass for me. So and I was just about ready to pour some Zango in there, and it would have been a little unique taste to the Zango because I'm sure I wouldn't have paid much attention. I would have just drank it, and I'd have discovered it later. So that was a good laugh on my part that everyone enjoyed there that night. But
God was watching out for you that night.
So
definitely a 3-point shot.
Yeah, right. So this was kind of the end, the last night before a lot of us departed the next morning early but it was, again, one of those nights that, again, the founders were even just like, their faces were just amazed that these people were coming to sing, and they weren't really, no one knew what was going on except for Nicole, which was just really cool that it was a surprise to everyone.
My favorite was watching Dr. Templeman watch the opera singers. He was on the edge of his seat, and, he was just so into it. It was so fun to watch him.
You know, when people sway, like when they're watching a movie and their head moves with the movie, Dr. Templeman's whole body was moving with the music. I thought he was going to fall off his chair. It was just funny. It was awesome.
Well, and it didn't really matter whether you think you liked opera or not. It was breathtaking. I mean, you learned to love opera that night.
Absolutely.
And Eric, like you said, I was waiting for some glass to break. It's amazing the notes they hit, you know.
Yeah, they were. I got a new appreciation for the art. That's for sure. All right, so that's. Anyone have any final thoughts before we move on to kind of the next phase of Zango and what some of the tidbits you learned there?
I'm just trying to figure out what Lindsay's doing on her face in that picture.
She'll get you for that, Tommy.
Well,
she's on this call.
So putting that in perspective, that's a little bit of dream building, a little bit of set your sights on some of those types of things. So bringing it down to practical, what do we do about it and how do we get there? I think one of the important things to think about is people want and they're looking for what we have in the world today, especially in the world today, in the day we live in. But this isn't. Just think about what we actually are offering the world. And I just put together some bullet points here just to kind of remind ourselves about what are we going out to offer when we go out to share this with people and offer them a chance to be in business with us. And why should we have some pretty strong posture that we're letting them in on something, we're not getting them into something. And here's a couple of my thoughts that I just put down, and you guys can certainly chime in any extras. But there's an equal playing field. People are looking for that. This isn't based on, I'm 35 years old. Tommy, I think you're 35 with me. 35 or 75 or 25, it doesn't matter.
Glad you didn't ask us how old we were.
I wanted to stay away from that one. So
there you go.
So it's not dependent upon age, race, gender, any of that kind of stuff. Everyone's there's no ceilings here imposed upon us. You determine your hours and your location. I have a business that I live out in the boonies, out in the country. We just bought 5 acres on a river, and we're not close enough. I mean, it takes us a good hour to get to anything that you'd call a city. Doesn't matter. If I operate my business from here, and I can move anywhere I want, and as long as I have an internet connection and a phone, the business goes with me. That's a very neat thing, in today's world with the mobility of everyone.
Except in Venice, right?
Except in Venice. No internet, no phone, nothing. So Venice is out. All right, wait for the computer here.
God does give you days of rest, though.
Absolutely. Family time, work-life balance, right? That's just a pipe dream for most people in today's world to have work-life balance, and have quality family time. I'm on a mission that I talk about all the time, and I'm always going to talk about it. Is getting moms home is priority one for families that are looking for that. But this is a very unique deal where we can have a legitimate opportunity to get dads home who want to be at home and still provide for a living and get all the fun stuff that can come with a career, but not have to sacrifice being a part of their kids' lives in order to do it. And there's not too many places you can find that to be a legitimate option. Positive association with forward thinkers. This became was cool to me on the trip because we all got to hang out a lot more than we ever have before and just get to know each other. And just amazing that this is a business. I call it kind of a self-weeding process. Negative people and people you really don't want to be around don't stay around in this business. You end up, what's left is people that are just fantastic to be with and you want to be with, regardless of building a business or not. They just become friends lifelong, and that's a pretty neat thing. And people are looking for that. That's why they join clubs and everything else to do. A chance to work from home, not fight the traffic, and not put up with the rat race. Tap into globalization, and for that matter, travel the world and get paid to do it and write it off on your taxes. Income that outlasts your ability or desire to work. I always say when I go do meetings, if I don't make it home that night, my wife and my kids are still going to get a paycheck next month because it's not based on what I do. It's based on what I started. And, that's called peace of mind in today's world. Extra money, and or save money on taxes, they kind of go hand in hand. That's obviously a huge thing. A lot of people spend the best years of their life, 40, 50, 60 hours a week, just for the sake of earning a living, and then in the end, most of them die broke anyway. So apparently people need a different system. Recognition of talent. People love to be recognized for what they're good at, and this provides a marvelous opportunity to do that. Improved health and wellness, recession-proof industry, and make a difference. The upcoming June issue of Success Magazine, there's an article in there, and it talks about how there was a poll, and 67% of Americans say they would quit their job and work for themselves tomorrow if they felt they could make a difference and apply their passion. So that's the world we live in, right? People are looking for meaning, looking for significance, and along we come with something that has that tied up in a package like the likes of which have never been before in front of most people and much less our industry, and we'll get into that more here in a minute. So my point is make sure you know what you're offering, or remind yourself. Be selective about who you invite into business with you because you deserve to, right? And what we have is pretty special, and we should treat it that way and feel pretty good about what we're bringing to the table, and bring it in a way that people recognize the magnificent tool and the vehicle we're bringing to them. So that's kind of my little snapshot about, in my mind, that was my quick bullet points of what I think about when I offer this to someone. Tommy, why don't you? I'll get into some more slides here. Why don't you kind of take it from here and kind of go into some of the thoughts you were sharing?
Well, I'll do so, and Steve, jump in any time because I'll just run. But I'd like your feedback, and I'm new to this industry, but I'm big on timing, and I'm big on capitalizing on that. And I kind of pride myself over the last few years of becoming somewhat of a student of the industry. And, I can't sit here and say I've been through new product launches with these companies before, and here's what to expect. But I've surrounded myself with enough people who have the experience in the industry like Steve or Bob Schmidt or Sherman or Sandy Cohen, Dr. de Guzman, and many others to have an idea what to expect just from them. But going even deeper into it, and the reason I tell you guys this is because without the shadow of a doubt, it's time to take action. And you've got the pioneers of this company, Zengo, Eric Welch, Steve, and myself, and many others, who are kind of walking around with spears, with arrows in their back, but we've laid the groundwork. And if you study the history of the industry, there's been over 100,000 network marketing companies, Eric, and only roughly 40 or so of them have ever hit $100 million in annual sales mark, annual commissionable sales. And out of those 40, only about 8, maybe 9, have ever reached $1 billion in annual sales. And 98% of them are out of business by the 5th year. Is that accurate, Steve?
100%, Tommy. You're right on the money. That's what people got to realize. I don't know. I heard Cindy, we was on the phone today, and she was talking to somebody and said, you just really don't know what you really have in your hand. And too many people look for something, and it's so obvious, and some of the comments that you're making, Tommy, are perfect because you've studied the industries, you've had some good mentors, and you've done a great, phenomenal job in your first time around in this type of industry. But you're fortunate, we're all fortunate enough to have what we have right here, and a lot of people are going to miss out on that because, it's like it's a different industry, but it's like a Ray Kroc, or it's like the certain franchise you get patronized or whatever. Every now and then, and you've commented on the number of ones that have been out there, you very seldom ever have an opportunity to find a winner, just like what you're saying, Tommy.
Well, yeah. Well, and you had the experience to know how to select this company, so kudos to you. For me, it was strictly dumb luck. Found myself in the right place at the right time. Fortunately, to date, I've capitalized on it. And you have a lot of the leaders who really put their heads down in the first 2-3 years of this company and laid the groundwork. And now, really been at the top of their game and, in a sense, taken a break. Well, now, and I don't care if it's David Butler or some of the other leaders, they're all putting their heads down now. And if you study the history of the industry, you understand why. And the reason I tell everybody on this call this is because ultimately the objective here is what's in it for you and how can we help you get on this trip. But if you take a look, going back, a lot of people say, well, this company's had its run. And, that drives me up a wall. Or you have to get in early. Well, 98% of the time they're accurate because 98% of the companies are gone by the 5th year. So if you don't get in early, there was never an opportunity for you to, left. And if you look in the 60s, and this is just to name a few of the billion-dollar companies, the 8 or 9 ever, and we care, guys. We care about if they're $1 billion or not and we care that it's commissionable $1 billion because what we should care about is if the company does $1 billion, $500 million is paid to the field. A lot of companies will add in their conventions, their swag, their tools, but Zengo doesn't in their numbers. But in the 60s, it was clearly Amway. In the 70s, it was Primerica and maybe Mary Kay, as far as, the only company to be in. That you can build what I'd call a legacy position, meaning it's around for your kids, it's around to will, like Eric was talking about, or gift, or even sell, because these businesses are incredible assets. And in the 80s, it was Herbalife and Forever Living. And Forever Living came out in 1978 with a functional health beverage, aloe vera juice. And then in the 90s, there was really only one company to be with if you wanted one that was going to, sustainable residual income, and that was Nu Skin. And every one of these companies, the top earners, always came in between year 5 and 12. So, I don't care if it's Dexter Yeager at Amway came in the 4th year, Bill Britt came in the 7th year, Jim Dornan came in the 11th year. Those are the 3 top earners at Amway. Nu Skin, and they typically don't have experience. The reason being is just the doability factor is it's easier to do because the systems are in place. All arrows point to that company being it or the place to be. It's secure. The risk is gone, and the teams are in place. But in Nu Skin, it was the top earner there is Nathan Ricks. He came in the 6th year. And Jeff Mack came in the 6th year as well. Kenton Worthington came in the 17th year, and those are some of your top earners of Nu Skin. Mary Kay, Ann Newberry, came in the 7th year, and she's their only 7-figure annual earner. And the list goes on and on. But and please, guys, jump in, because this is a couple points I really want to get across to everybody on this call, because timing's critical. And if you look at these companies, and in the when Nu Skin was out, everybody said that they had their run, and when they launched their Pharmanex line, they grew by 8 times, and that was their 7th year, 1991. They launched Pharmanex, and they had another huge run when they launched the scanners in 2001. And then if you look at Herbalife, people are saying, well, Herbalife's over. But then when they launched their nutritional division, they grew by almost 10 times. People said Forever Living, in the 80s was over, and they when they were about 5 years old, they launched their skincare line. And I actually have their company timeline right here. They opened their doors in '78. They did $100 million in sales by '84 in annual sales, made them one of 40 companies to date. And, that took them, that's on their 6th year. Well, we dwarfed that in our 5th year. Mm-hmm. And their comp plan pays out 41%, ours pays out 50%. And then in 1992, their sales exceeded $500 million. But it was because they launched their skincare line in 1987, and they started to have a huge run. And then in '98, they topped $1 billion, which made them one now of 8 companies. And then in 2003, I think partially because the baby boomers, they did over $2 billion, and they continue to do over $2 billion, spread through 130 countries with 9 million active distributors. And I don't want to confuse anybody with these numbers, but the story always reads the same in this industry. Mm-hmm. All arrows point to Zengo clearly being that company. And if you look at what they've done strategically, they've strategically opened up the globe, 23 countries to date, and there'll be in several more years to come, very strategically, because these guys aren't learning on the job. And they've stayed focused with one product longer than any other company in the history of the industry. And it's hard enough to do $1 billion in annual sales with any one product in traditional marketing alone or network marketing, but they've done it. So when people think of Mangosteen, they think of Zengo. And now, guys, they roll out another $1 billion brand with the 365, a branded product that they've done their homework on. They spent over a year in development, and, that's unique and has sizzle, and they're the first to market with a whole food multivitamin mineral line that has xanthones in it. And then late November, they'll launch their third $1 billion brand. They've spent, by the time they launch it, 3 years in development with a patented process that nobody else has. So the point in telling you all these things is that this is the window in which people will come in and set themselves up for life in a relatively short period of time. And it's not just me saying it. It's the history of the industry, looking at what Zengo's done, looking at the fact that they're clearly that company currently that's going to be here that has laid the pavement for all of us to have ultra success. And it's the doability factor. It'll be much easier than it's ever been. And Steve, I'm sure you'd have something to add to this, but it's always been easier than any of the other opportunities you've been with.
Well, without a doubt, because, there's so many things that you mentioned in there, and history repeats itself. And, like you say, a lot of the people, if you look at the numbers and the companies that you mentioned, Tommy, and we all know that, but a lot of people say the ground floor or the basement. Sometimes they never get out of the basement. But the stability of what they've done and what we've accomplished, the next 6 months is absolutely critical. Because, you don't have to worry. You don't have to take a back step. Some of the people that was in it the day one at the beginning, it was another company with another product. Excuse that, sitting grab that. But with another product that was going to do this or going to do that. Well, once you've accomplished that, what you mentioned about, Forever Living, Herbalife, Amway, or whatever, I know the Dexter Yeagers, Charlie Marshes, some of the other people, a lot of those people came in on the 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th year. But again, you have a handful of companies that out of 100,000 that have attained the $1 billion mark, and you got a brand new company here with technology and a unique product and management team that have done what they've done. And then you've got our generation too, Tommy, that with the baby boomers out there that are going crazy over a product that really works. I know we were in it for over a year before we really got active. We were in it a year and went to the convention. We were 5Ks and because we were so used to hearing the same BS stories, and we really had to see for ourselves. So and a lot of people, I know you're enthusiastic and what you're mentioning in statistics and history from what you've learned, and you've really become a student of the industry, is you're telling people that, hey, don't miss the boat. Either get off the boat or make the boat go. And now in the next 5 to 6 months, now is the time that people are looking for opportunities. The economy's a little bit in turmoils out there, but we have a product that's stable. You can sit down with anybody and talk about this industry. You're not going to recruit everybody. I've never had anybody say, oh, that's another one of these deals. Because, when your attitude's so forceful and strong, I don't really care what they tell me, because the company's so strong and has accomplished what very few companies in the history of ever, not in our industry, but other industries have done. And like you announced, when some of these other companies, they introduced the product, and we've seen what 365 is going to be. And when you go to meetings and you see the majority of the people are already taking some products, these have been researched. They're going to be top-of-the-line products. And then when Glimpse comes out, look what happened to Forever Living. It just jumped tremendously. So that's going to be, right place, right time. I agree with what you're saying, Tommy. I just feel sorry for some of the people that don't take advantage of the next 6 months.
Well, I agree. So many companies have done it so wrong for so long, Steve, that when one comes around and does it world class, they miss it for those exact reasons. And I think there's kind of been a void in the industry. And before Zengo launched, since Nu Skin in '84, there hasn't been any giants. The industry is just coming off the Nu Vision and the Noni run, and people are just looking for the next big thing. Nu Vision and Noni, I feel like the reason they went up so quick and down so quick was because they didn't have a legitimate product or idea. Mm-hmm. And this is unique to this industry. So I feel blessed to be in this company. And, you talked earlier about the founders being a big problem. Even companies have great products. And I've found that it seems that oftentimes the distributors or the field think bigger than the founders. So in essence, you hit a glass ceiling, which is no different than corporate America. And here, and I know for a fact, because I've talked with them, and they don't announce this from the stage, but in closed-door meetings at conferences, the conference table, these founders sit around and discuss being number one, being the biggest. They don't talk about being bigger than Nu Vision or Nu Skin. They talk about being number one, which is a bold statement, saying surpassing Amway is the number one company. And that's where these guys intend to take this thing. And the leadership like yourself and Eric, there's no question in my mind that that's ultimately going to happen. So I think everybody needs to start making their lists of people, putting them together, getting with your upline, because the economic potential of one person is so great that you don't want to leave anything to chance. You don't just go talk to them yourselves. You put together a game plan and strategize with your team so you get maximum benefits for your efforts, so you put yourself in a position to win. And let's run with this.
Tommy, to emphasize what you mentioned about the founders, first when we went to Thailand, and we're fortunate we went with Joe and Aaron again, and they were on this trip with us and got to know a lot of the other founders since then. But when I sit down, especially with Joe, having a history of his family being involved in direct sales and networking, it was more than just about what so many other companies. You'll see somebody that's been successful in sales, and they'll go out there and start a network marketing company, and they don't have any experience with accounting, bookkeeping, or whatever. They just want some titles. Well, when you put these 6 individuals together, and along with Beverly and a few of the other people, the tremendous groundwork that they've laid and other individuals they've brought into the business since then, but you put them together with the idea, it wasn't just another title or recognition or let me put CEO on the doorstep. It was the idea that I remember Joe mentioning so many times that they wanted to actually change the industry, and similar to what they did with the franchise industry. I remember, Tommy, listening, you brought out some statistics. I remember listening to some statistics how they start talking, and you always thought it was Amway. They said your congressmen and your senators and the mayors and everybody was down on this and they this and that and this and that, downplaying everything, and it only passed Congress by 2 votes. And I've mentioned this a lot of different times, which is something that we patronize every day, was the franchise industry. And when you heard that tape, I wish I could find that tape, but it said, I always thought it was Amway. They was going to mention Amway, this industry, but it was actually the franchise industry, which we all accept, and I think the founders had that intent. They want to change the way people look at the industry, and like Eric mentioned earlier about stay-at-home moms and stay-at-home fathers and stuff that have time, you guys have that opportunity, and so many people on the call have that opportunity. And again, when you mention the numbers of 8 or 9 or 10 companies out of over 100,000 that we know of that have tried this, that have attained $1 billion, and you've got one that's already there in 4 or 5 years, you're never going to see this opportunity again. We're older than you guys, but you guys will probably never see this either. So feel sorry again if they don't take advantage of it.
It's funny you say that, because when I got started, I've been mentored by the great Bob Schmidt, who's kind of an icon of this industry, 38 years, and he is known for analyzing these companies. And when I asked him, when I first got started and didn't know anything about it, I said, Bob, how big of opportunity is this? He looked me right in the eyes and goes, Tommy, this is the big one. Mm-hmm. I said, how often does one like this come around? He said, once in a lifetime, in my opinion, if that. Mm-hmm. And he said, I've waited my whole career in this industry for this opportunity. And to that end, within 22 months, he had surpassed his largest income in the industry 35 years previously. So I think a combination of what you're saying, Steve, and with the economy, and you study, again, numbers tell a story, and so does history. But if you look at traditionally, network marketing has thrived in down economies. Not only is it virtually recession-proof, but it thrives in these times because people don't have as many options. I used to say the product's for everybody, the business isn't. But with what's going on, and just here in Arizona, we're projected to have 60,000 foreclosures in the next 12 months. In our average 5K income is $737 a month. I'd be willing to bet you guys that average 5K income will reverse 90 to 95% of those foreclosures and bankruptcies. So you add that, the timing with the economy, the timing with the wellness industry, which is prior to sickness, that Pilzer says is going to $1 trillion in the next few years and is going in that direction. And then you look at what this company's done, and then you guys as great leaders and many others have laid the groundwork, and the systems are in place that it's literally, to the point where a dog with a note in his mouth could build this thing if he was consistent and treated it like a real business. And so I agree, it is sad sometimes that people will miss this because their friends or family members will, tell them that they're wasting their time.
Mm-hmm. I agree with you, Tommy. I like that. I never heard that comment, a dog with a note in his mouth, but that's about true. I said that you could have a blind person stand on a street corner and hand out one tape about the business, one tape about the product. If they handed out enough of them, you'll find some people that have some interest in the business.
Yeah, and you look at that whole scenario, and it almost seems like these founders, one of them has got to have, well, they all have great vision, but they're almost economists, that they've put this opportunity together at such a timely time in history that it just couldn't be a better opportunity, not only from the Zango perspective, but with what's going on, again, with the economy and the wellness industry, that it's almost they planned it this way.
Mm-hmm. Well, history repeats itself. There's a timing. There's certain times that there needs to be certain changes, and these guys, this is what they were supposed to do during their lifetime, and the nice thing about it is it's not just for them. It's affecting, and it will continue to affect tens of thousands and millions of people around the world to take advantage of it.
One of the calls I listened to recently was last Saturday actually, John David Mann was on the Art Manville training call at noon, which is archived at becomingapremier.com if you've never been to that site, which if you're on this call you probably have been, but go back and listen to it again if you haven't listened to it, or even if you have. Here's the guy who actually was this will lead into another example, a little evidence you can hang your hat on of the uniqueness of the Zango story and the timing of this thing. So John David Mann was editor-in-chief and co-founder of Upline magazine, which was probably the premier industry magazine back in the 90s, and then also editor-in-chief of Networking Lifestyles magazine, and now he serves as editor-in-chief of Networking Times. Had walked away from his last company, hadn't touched it for 22 years, and was still collecting a 5-figure residual income every month for 22 years after he quit working it, which is kind of the point, right, of a residual income. And never thought he'd do it. He was a consultant. Him and Anna McCullen, who's 100K in Zango, and John David Mann's a 20K, came out of retirement, never thought they'd build another company, and they said, we couldn't miss this one. We were watching it. They were highly in tune with the Direct Selling Association, and they said Zango for the first 3 to 4 years was the talk of the entire Direct Selling Association, and they sat there and they thought, why are we not doing this? And they came out of retirement and locked and loaded on this thing, and they're going for it. So I just found that a unique insight into it's one thing for someone like me or Tommy that this is our first run to happen to be lucky enough to find a Zango, but someone like that who's sat back and watched the industry for 20 years and been at the pulse of what's going on, says I opt into this one. I can't miss this one. And one of the interesting statements he made on there on the call is he said there's 60 to 70,000 people tomorrow that are going to join a network marketing company across the world, and it's just a matter of which one they're going to join. That's the level of growth that this industry has experienced now that it's come of age, and we're into the golden age of direct sales, and we're not in the cutting its teeth stage of the 70s and 80s and maybe even 90s. So that's I have the slide up there about timing. The timing of the industry, the timing of baby boomers, but the timing of Zango, it all comes together into a colossal thing that, there's a reason why I'm losing sleep now just as much as I ever have been after 3 years. One thing I want to throw up here quick before we end, everyone is anxious to get more details and information on Glimpse, obviously. I have a little picture there of it. That is a pure 100% xanthone extract. That's all it is extracted xanthones. It's yellow because, as a lot of us have heard from Dr. Morton, the xanthones are naturally yellow. And Dr. Templeman had that black market little beauty in his suitcase in his room, and we all had a chance to go up there and try it. And I just thought it felt like we were getting away with something, trying to be first in line to kind of try this stuff. But there's a reason why Dr. Templeman said he thinks the market potential for Glimpse is possibly 10 times greater than the juice, and which is a pretty amazing thing. He's got a pretty global perspective on things, and this stuff is going to just knock people's socks off with results, and it's such a natural appeal. So it was very neat to hear his thoughts. He's been in on some of the conversations with the researchers from Japan, and He was just making comments about that, which we'll probably hear from stage in Orlando, in the next couple weeks. But you guys are up there also as well, and had a chance to try some of that, and it was pretty. Wouldn't you guys say it was easy to see he could hardly contain his excitement about what's going to happen when this hits the market.
Well, Tommy's trying to steal the bottle,
I slipped off with some actually. I got a little bit. It squeezed into a little shampoo bottle Dr. Templeman gave my wife. We've been using it on my son's eczema with tremendous results already. We're taking before and after pictures. I can't wait to get them out to everybody.
Awesome.
Well, it was nice to be able to go up there with you and Eric, and and be invited with Dr. Templeman and try it. It's amazing just from the little sample, and it's just it's a sensational feeling, and it's going to definitely open up a whole entire market, and then once that opens up the market, it'll continue to feed on the juice, but. I don't know if it's true or not, but you obviously know Mary Kay is a very successful company out there, and Avon is, and it costs quite a bit of money to get involved in some of them. I heard it was up to $1,500 with Mary Kay. I don't know if that's true or not, but one product like this is just going to be something like what you talked about, Forever Living, Tommy. It's going to blow the top off, and I think it could surpass everything that we've already done in the past 5 years.
Let me close I agree, 110%. This is Tommy. Let me close my little segment here with telling everybody on the phone that you can take my name and put it to this and take it to the bank, because, I'm big on economists. I'm big on history. I'm big on facts and figures and numbers. But you watch, because Zango's business plan was to reach $1 billion by 2010. And I talked to Aaron Garrity, the CEO of this company, and he said we have a fantastic chance of reaching that, with a big smile on his face. And I'll tell you right now, if we do that, that'll be 8 years from our start date, which would be 5 years quicker than the fastest company that I'm aware of to do it, which is Nu Skin, did it $1 billion in commissionable sales by their 13th year. And you watch, everybody on this phone, this company will double in the next 30 months. The next 2.5 years, for the right reasons, this company will double. And everybody on the phone just needs to determine how big of a piece of that pie that they want. The people that told the story of aloe vera when they started in 1978 for the first 15 years, particularly in the window after year 7, when they had their run, they have the lion's share of that $2.4 billion in their downline somewhere that they're being paid on month after month after month for their efforts 15 years ago. So we just need to determine how much individually we want in our organizations. The timing couldn't be better. I know how much is going to be in Eric's and Steve's and mine, and we have to bring people along with us. So
awesome.
That's all I got, folks.
Hey, it was great to get to know you guys more. Honored to be able to lock arms with you guys as this Zango story rolls ahead. It's going to be a neat adventure together as this thing unfolds in front of us. And those of you on the call, obviously if you got inspired by any of this and caught a vision, hopefully this is recorded on Art Manville's website and archives so you can send people there later. But get down to Orlando. Don't miss it. This stuff's going to roll out. You want to be there when the cork is pulled off of this company with Glimpse and things in Orlando in a couple short weeks. So thanks for tuning in the call. Thanks you guys for joining and helping tell the story here. And it was just an amazing trip, and I can't wait to see what happens in the future. It's going to just take it to another level for sure. So good night, everyone. I'll open up the lines. We can all say good night.
All right.
Good night.
Thank you. Good night, guys.
Bye.